Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about Ethereum, preparing for Q4. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Remember, we do have the premium list at intothecryptoverse.com if you want to know how I am navigating these markets. Let's go ahead and jump in. So, Ethereum is approaching Q4. And a lot of times when we think about Q4, historically speaking for Ethereum, we think about last year where it trended up for basically the entirety of Q4. We also might think it tends to not do so great against Bitcoin in Q4. These are just what have happened historically. And unfortunately, as much as we would all love to have a crystal ball to fully understand what will happen this Q4, we do not. But I do think that we can at least make some comparisons as to where we are in the cycle and by looking at prior cycles. All right, and we've done this before, but I want to have I want to leave a few thoughts remaining or related to Ethereum heading into Q4, and then also discuss, fundamentally and from a quantitative perspective, why Ethereum is a fairly decent choice to have in a portfolio. Okay, so we've seen these movements before, and I've told you guys endlessly that up here, I said, guys, we're entering a summer lull. We're probably going to enter long reaccumulation. I did not say we're going to go back to $300. I think anywhere between say 2 to 4K is long reaccumulation. It looks like we went down to 1,700. Could we go lower than 1,700 at this point? It's possible. I would say worst case scenario would be if Bitcoin, doesn't hold the 20-week and capitulates, then maybe we can go back down to those levels. But the main point that I want to make is that who cares, right? Who cares? The people, if you're buying Ethereum today and you're watching my channel, then hopefully you're not buying it to sell it tomorrow. You're buying it as a long-term investment. Remember, long-term capital gains and short-term capital gains is a thing. At least in the United States and a lot of other places. So it is something to keep in mind. If you buy Ethereum today, the goal is not to just sell it tomorrow. That's not the purpose of this channel. Again, there's other channels that will pretend to make money doing that, but that's not the purpose of this channel. Okay, so what I'm looking at here for Ethereum as we go into Q4 is one of two things. Either something that looks like this, or something that looks like this. Now, granted, we will not repeat exactly what has happened in the past, but I'm just trying to show you guys what are some things we might expect based on what has happened in the past, because we know that human behavior can often be very, very similar, and we could see these two things play out as we head into Q4, okay? And I really want to break down both scenarios here. All right, so this is scenario one, this is scenario two. Both of them ultimately led to new highs, right? Did they not? Take a step back and we say, well, who really cares what happened in this region here? We have new all-time highs coming. So I think based on, the total crypto market capitalization and whatnot and where we're ultimately headed, I think that by 2022, Ethereum will be looking really, really good in terms of putting in new all-time highs. And there's a high probability that we put in new all-time highs before 2022. So you need to be thinking about, I'm buying Ethereum. If you're buying it today, you got to be thinking, okay, I'm looking towards at the very least, next year. Because again, no one's going to get out of bed for a $4,000 Ethereum at this point. We hit $4,000, back in April, okay? And maybe May is when we really hit that. So who's going to get out of bed for a 4K Ethereum? I know I'm not. We also went back up to the $4,000 milestone just a week or two ago. So these are not, buying Ethereum at 3,500 and then taking profits at $4,000. That's not the game. That's not the right game to play. Okay, the right game to play is just to accumulate and then take profits 1 or 2 years from now, depending on what the market does. Now, scenario one is where Ethereum held the 20-week for a few months and then ultimately capitulated down. Okay, so let's talk about this one first and let's get it out of the way. This is what I would consider the worst case scenario for Ethereum. Okay, so worst case, in my opinion, would be we fail to hold the 20-week, and then we do something like this where we have a capitulation by the end of the year. Okay, this is what happened in 2016. And remember, 2016 was a bull market for Bitcoin and the entire asset class. Was it not? I mean, you go look at 2016. 2016 starts here. This is a bull market, my friends. Okay, what happened to Ethereum? Well, it fell below the 20-week, and it capitulated below the 20-week by approximately 50%. So to me, this is worst case scenario, a drop below the 20-week by 50%. That'd be worst case. And the point to say is if it happens, which there's a high probability that it doesn't even happen, okay? But if it were to happen, it's just going to represent a huge opportunity for you, in my opinion, right? It would just represent a crazy opportunity if something like that were to happen. If I had to guess, I would lean towards this is unlikely to happen. So this one is probably more unlikely than something like this, okay? So the way I look at it is, so many people try to pretend like they know exactly what's going to happen in the market. And as long as they say it in a very confident way, then people will believe what they're saying. No one knows, okay? No one really knows. As much as we would all love to know, no one really knows what's going to happen in the market next week, okay? No one really knows. So when we talk about something like this, it's not about predicting if these things will happen. It's just a matter of staying disciplined if they happen, right? It's not a matter of predicting if they happen or when they happen. It's just saying, if it happens, this is what I'm going to do. So if it does happen, what am I going to do? Am I going to capitulate and sell my Ethereum? No. I'll just load the boat. I'll just load up and prepare for what I would assume is going to be another leg up in the cycle at some point, right? At some point. The other option is we just sort of do what we did last time in 2017, and we just sort of hold it as support here, and then we have another leg up sooner rather than later. Okay, so this is also a likely scenario to play out, and you can see there's there's a lot of similarities. And if you wanna compare this move here to these prior moves, remember these prior moves all look something like this, right? They were able to go back to the prior all-time highs, or they were able to come close to the prior all-time highs, and then they ultimately sprang back to life in the first quarter of the following year. So you look at Ethereum, and it looks somewhat similar, right? I mean, it came up, it came down, and basically back to the prior all-time high, not quite, and now we're doing something similar. So Ethereum, from sort of like a macro perspective here, it looks quite nice. Now, you'd be fooling yourself to say the risk is less risky than it was over here. I told you guys back in 2019 and 2020, I said plenty of times that this was the accumulation phase of a lifetime. And over here, it doesn't get any better, okay? And we have videos on the channel when these things happened. If you don't believe me, just go look it up. And then we called this the reaccumulation phase of a lifetime, and we called this the overvaluation reaccumulation phase of a lifetime. So the risk as it goes up certainly gets higher because we are ultimately more likely getting closer and closer to a market cycle peak. I just don't think that 4,400 is the market cycle peak, right? I don't think that 4,400 is the market cycle peak, but we are getting closer to a market cycle peak. Whether that market cycle peak ends up being at, say, $10,000, $12,000, $15,000, $18,000, I don't know. But every step we go, the risk is slightly higher, okay? Now, there will come a day, again, where the risk will be low, but it's going to take like a couple year bear market / reaccumulation phase, and we're just not there at this point. And it's sort of irrelevant, like people want to know what they can do today. They don't want to say, all right, well, I missed the boat, therefore I just want to wait 3 years or something and then repeat the same strategy. You have to just recognize that buying Ethereum now, it's riskier than buying it before, but it doesn't mean there's not potential upside, okay? Now, another thing. A lot of people say that Ethereum, it's not worth buying Ethereum because the gains on it are not as high as what you'll get elsewhere. Guys, I gotta tell you, I've seen this mentality a lot before. A lot. And it's what ultimately gets people wrecked, okay? from a quantitative perspective, Ethereum, I mean, it's a blue chip, right? It's a blue chip. Bitcoin and Ethereum are the blue chip cryptocurrencies. If you don't have them, I feel like you're probably being a little bit too risky for your own good. Bitcoin and Ethereum are the blue chip cryptos. And fundamentally speaking, Ethereum is ahead. Okay, I mean, I talk about other smart contract platforms, and I love them, and I have positions in them. I like Cardano, I like Polkadot, I like Avalanche. There's other ones I like, and I'm probably going to get positions in. But they're not Ethereum competitors. Okay, I'll say that again. Ethereum does not have any competitors today. Okay, they're great projects, right? Cardano, Polkadot, they're great projects, but they simply are not competitors to Ethereum. They're just simply not. And if you want to say, well, they are, again, I would argue that Ethereum's technology is probably further along than you think it is. Again, a lot of these different cryptocurrency layer one smart contract platforms are going to have to ultimately realize that becoming rollup centric is very likely the way to go, and a lot of them haven't realized that yet. And the ones that have are I think they're doing a good thing by working towards that. But Ethereum's been doing this for a while. They've been working towards this sort of stuff for a while. So I would argue that they're fairly far ahead from the other chains. So again, I will say, if you are thinking on a multi-year time frame, fundamentally speaking, Ethereum is better. Okay, it is better. Even if the argument is that it won't ultimately have the same types of returns. And what I would think would be funny is if it actually beat the returns of some other L1s from here until the market cycle peak. That would be somewhat poetic. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen, but I would say it's certainly going to outpace some of them. I mean, it's already outpaced several of them. If you look from market cycle bottom, there's been plenty of L1s that Ethereum has already outpaced. Okay, I mean, some of the main ones we follow, it hasn't, but a lot of them it has. And from here till the market cycle peak, it could outpace some of them. You really never know. Okay, so just some things to keep in mind, and I do want people to remember that Ethereum, with everything that it has going for it right now. I mean, of course, they're burning Ethereum and whatnot now with the EIP 1559 update, and as we head into 2022, we're going to have the merge and whatnot. So I think what's going to happen is we're going to look back on this time next year, and we're ultimately going to see it as long reaccumulation. Okay, and what does that mean? Well, what I think it means is that we're basically more or less bound between, say, 4,400. I mean, it could go slightly higher. We saw it go slightly higher here for a little bit, and all the way down here at say 1,700. And at some point, we're going to break out. And when we do, it's possible that this region is where the next market cycle bottom could be, but a long ways off. Okay, a long ways off. So it's just something to keep in mind. I do think Ethereum is in this long reaccumulation zone. I'm not sure if we're quite ready to break out yet. I'm not sure about that. I would say we need a little bit more time. Ethereum has surprised me before, right? I mean, if you're waiting on something to happen before you do anything, it's typically not a good game you want to play. All right, so I don't know that it's quite ready to break out to say $6,000, $7,000 in September. And if we do repeat the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation bleed in Q4, where Ethereum bleeds against Bitcoin, if that happens for the 7th year in a row, whatever it is, then man, Q1 should be some fireworks. Okay, if that happens, because it's like you can only keep a ball underwater for so long. Okay, I mean it sort of seems like Ethereum's ready to pop now. I think one of the things that might be slightly holding it back is Bitcoin going to get a sufficient test of the 20-week moving average. I think that's primarily the main thing holding it back. And once we've had a sufficient test of the 20-week, and if Bitcoin's not going parabolic, then I think it's time for Ethereum to fly. Now, if we do get a test of the 20-week and then Bitcoin immediately goes parabolic like it did last year, then again, the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation might bleed in Q4, or if Bitcoin capitulates. If Bitcoin capitulates below the 20-week, then we might get a repeat of this scenario, where we drop 50% below the 20-week SMA. which would actually get us all the way back down to the prior all-time high of $1,400. So 1,400 around this area. This was the prior all-time high. That would sort of be like a worst case scenario. But these are not things you plan for, right? You don't plan for something to happen. You of course plan for all situations, and whatever does happen, you react accordingly based on what you already said you were going to do. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. We're going to check out the premium list at intothecryptoverse.com. Thank you for tuning in. Subscribe, click the bell icon, and turn on your notifications. Please do give the video a thumbs up if you haven't, and I will see you next time. Bye.